Quick, what is that? What kind of car is that with this slashing, incredible styling effect known as the front headlight? It looks almost Tundra-esque. What is it? What is the car? Do you know? Do you know? Here's a hint. And we're going to have some real fun with this one because it's a V series. Please stick with us. Boy, look at that. 325 horsepower of a little 2.7 liter inline four. Of course, we're turbocharged, and this is no ordinary Cadillac CT4. It is a V series, which stands for VOO, or something like that. Actually, they don't say exactly what it stands for in the literature I have, but then again, I never was very literate. But here we have a beautiful Cadillac that a lot of the styling cues on this car remind me of a lot of the, strangely enough, a lot of the Jaguars from like the late 90s, early 2000 and something. The tail treatment in particular reminds me of that. Hear them autumn leaves crunch? Well, that's wintertime. This should be like a foot of snow on the ground right now, but it's not. But our CT4 is an elegant black hue, if you will. And it is a compact. It has, interesting thing, because the lines on the car, if you didn't have any scale, you might think it's a mid-size or even a full-size just because of the elegant lines it has. But this is definitely a compact, the smallest Cadillac. But it's still a Cadillac. It has all the amenities you expect. But this being the V version, it is a performance edition with a whole lot of horsepower and a whole lot of other good things. But the thing that is most exciting to me, as far as modern technology goes, is the Super Cruise system, which pretty much drives itself when you're on an open highway, and even changes lanes by itself, which is very extraordinary. I have mixed feelings about it, but it's still absolutely noteworthy how well it does work. And even on a little compact like this, one of the more affordable of the Cadillacs, I think it's safe to say that, and most beautiful of all, it's not an SUV. It's a genuine passenger car that carries genuine passengers if you know anyone you want to carry with you who is in fact a genuine person. Got a 109-inch wheelbase and a whole lot of interesting touches on the interior that kind of marks the evolution of the brand, really, for the last 5 or 10 years. They're continuing to refine their Cadillac user experience interface system and continue to advance technology, like I said, with things like Super Cruise. Shall we go further in depth? But of course. Come with me and you'll be in the land of the Turbo V. Boy, that was awful. Sorry about that. Well, here we have our Cadillac CT4 power plant, and it's a beauty. It's a lovely, lovely thing. It's 2.7 liters V. 2.7 liters of inline fourness, which is turbocharged. And look at these numbers. Shall we look at these numbers? These numbers are amazing. 325 horsepower at 5,500 RPMs on premium fuel. You know, I'm always going on about Mazda that gives you two different values for horsepower depending on whether or not you're using regular or premium octane fuel. And the Cadillac just comes right out and says use premium, and that's what you get for your horsepower at 5,500 RPM as your peak, and then 380 pounds of feet of torque between 2,000 and 4,000 RPM, which is quite good for a 2.7 liter engine. And there's many notable things about this particular Cadillac power plant, the V series, and most notable right off the bat is, even though it is an inline four, kind of going against common practice, it is mounted longitudinally, front to back, instead of transversely side to side, which is great because it seems to me it gives there a lot more space underneath the hood area. And on the left side here, we have our, that sounds like an electric car is here. On the left side, you will see our exhaust system, which don't touch, it's hot. Here we have our turbocharger. This is the cool side, this is the hot side. Exhaust comes through the exhaust manifold, spins this, which spins this, and then you have a huge air intake right here, which is your air box going into your turbocharger. And then on the lower side of this turbocharger is where it actually, the pumped up air exits, goes down through an intercooler and comes in and comes over here to where your intake system is. So there you go. Very, very straightforward. And like I said, there's a lot of room underneath here, which I really like. Last Cadillac, same way. You really have a lot more hood space underneath it. And it's a very nice power plant so far. I've been experiencing it. It puts out a lot of good oomph, especially at low RPMs. It's a good system. 5W30 oil, which is becoming the thing apparently with a lot of GM products. So you got to remember, one of the things that's most fun about these Cadillacs is they do all this, the V-Series type cars, going all the way back to the CTSV, which was V8 powered, is you do get all the nice Cadillac attributes. It's very smooth, it's very refined. Sounds good, but it's not obtrusive in its noise and its exhaust noise. But you get real solid performance out of this engine. And they do this using a variety of tricks that they've learned over the years, but it's some of GM's best work is on these Cadillacs as far as the performance and the degree that it's comfortable to drive. I mean, they've done a nice job with that. And I love the fact, like I said, that you can look at it and it's not mind-bendingly complex. I mean, look at this, look at the side. This is where your air comes into your intake system. But you can actually get to things. There's your belt right there, your serpentine. Serpentine! So there we are. There's your 2.7 liter turbo. Perfect for this CT4 V-Series automobile. You know what this Cadillac has, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's got wheels aplenty. It actually has 4 of them. They're 18 inches, and look at the size of these brake calipers. They're massive, and the brake rotor is also massive, all keeping with the V formulation of performance for our little CTSV. Tire size is 235/40 R18, in fact, and these are some lovely Michelin's Primacy Alpine 5s, I believe these are, something like that. But they're beautiful tires. They're all season because one needs all season when one goes in places that used to have snow occasionally. Now, apparently we don't. But I'll tell you what, with a car like this, it's such a compact, you wonder, will there be any trunk space? Will there be room for my things? And the answer is yes, there's plenty of room. Matter of fact, this is a very spacious trunk for a compact. It's actually, when it comes to the room wars, I find the rear seat of this car is kind of tight, but the trunk is generous. And if you look over here, this is interesting. This is like a performance thing. There's your battery. It's back here, weight distribution. Or there may not just be enough room up front, because that, well, I don't know though. This is a pretty roomy engine bay, as engine bays go. But underneath here, do we have our spare? No. I think there's supposed to be a tire repair kit that some journalist probably sold it on eBay. They're awful people. But you have a little bit of storage underneath there, but a whole lot of storage in this trunk, I tell you what. And there's your 60/40 full back seating so that you can expand your cargo area into the rear seating area for larger items. which is always good. And wow, I do like the rear styling of this car so much because I think it's kind of elegant and it's kind of cool at the same time. There we go. Unlike my gimbal, which is a vicious hell beast that has its own determination about where it should be, and I don't like that very much. But this is a nice, for a car, if you live in some place that does get snow during the wintertime. This is a pretty decent car because it does have all-wheel drive. Did I mention that? I think I may have forgotten to. But the 2023 CT4 all-wheel drive V-Class car. Matter of fact, let me get that name right. Let's go right in here in a terrible manner. There we go. There we go. The official title is a 2023 CT4 V Series. And it's Black Raven. And the insides are sangria with jet black accents. Isn't that nice? As Monroney goes, that's a pretty beautiful Monroney. And your take-home price is $57,790. Well, that's not bad for a Cadillac like this. I like that. I like that a lot. Whee! So there we have it, folks. Let's get to riding this thing. Let's get to driving and riding and taking around. And would you like to go on a super cruise? Or could I say, won't you let me take you on a super cruise? Yeah, I think you will. Let's go. Welcome to the lair of the super cruise. So inside our CT4 here, we have once again the latest in virtual displays, mimicking an analog instrument. And as you can see very clearly, there's a few different choices you can have with this particular vehicle that are quite interesting, actually. But the big thing about it is, like so many other things, it takes a while to get acclimated to a way that Cadillac likes to do things. And the way Cadillac likes to do things is, more than anything else, they've been evolving what they like to call their Cadillac User Experience, CUE, over the last 10 years at least. And they're trying to get everything dialed in to what customers ultimately prefer in terms of everything, from the way the instruments feel when you touch them on the touch screen to the engine noise. I mean, they're constantly fiddling, refining, and doing all these other things to try to get the Cadillac interior to be, on the one hand, unique to all the automotive world, and on the other hand, intuitive and easy and comfortable for people to just jump right in the car and drive. How successful are they with? Well, it depends on what you like. And I mean, the best thing they can do at this point is try to make things such that you have a degree of adjustability to fine-tune the way you like it. Now, the primary display system here in the instrument cluster consists of that analog speedometer right in there, and then in the middle of that you got a digital speedometer. And but where's our tachometer? To the lower left. We have it down here, right there, and it's one of your horizontal run type RPM displays. Which there she goes. Look at that. Woo! Yeah. And this is flanked on the right side by the fuel gauge, which is also a very similar horizontal run type of moiety. So we also have a trip computer on the right hand side that you can toggle through, and like with everything else these days, there's all kinds of choices. Like, well, the performance one right here is real interesting because you can do lap times, because this is a V series. So and there's your G meter, And you can do your 0 to 60 times. Is that, I don't really have never understood why you'd want that on your car, unless you I don't know. It's not something you're going to be checking constantly, unless you're constantly tuning your car and messing around with it and trying to figure out new ways to do stuff and see if you can get a little more horsepower out of it or a little bit better traction, or just for fun. I think it's there more than anything else, just for entertainment. Some people are entertained about this. So anyway, that's pretty much it as far as that particular instrument cluster is concerned. What's our drive mode situation like? Well, we have snow and ice and track and sport and tour, which is the normal, which is I would also consider the normal. And see, that's look at how the the instrument cluster adapts to these various modes. A sport mode. Isn't that interesting? And for the first time, we have stuff on the left-hand side of the cluster, including your G meter and your tire pressure. And you can adjust this just like I did before, but the left side is pretty much goes along with whatever particular mode you happen to be in. Now, when you're in sport mode, look, it's even giving you your oil pressure. So, whee! Isn't that cool? So what else do we have? What happens if we go into track? I'm sorry. Track is even more aggressive, you would think. And there it is. Look at that enormous vertical. There's our tachometer. Woo! And again, you're going to have a real good idea on what your fuel temperature is. Fuel temperature. Why not? They should have a fuel temperature gauge, like on some aircraft. You have your oil temperature and your coolant temperature. Excuse me, it's not oil temperature, it's oil pressure. And your transmission temperature right now is 54 degrees. So it's real, it's as you're driving around the track and racing in your club, you're seeing what's going on with your engine and the fact that you're about to blow it up. So that's good to have. You need to know these things when you're in racing your Cadillac. Now, if we go into tour, that was our basic, and I don't remember that being over there earlier, But anyway, the outside temperature and the time was in there. Again, you have a lot you can mess with, and snow and ice is just a variation of your touring. But for some reason, they also give you your G meter on your right as you slide into the shrubbery off of the ice. So anyway, very entertaining stuff, and very clear and concise and easy to read. There is a heads-up display, which I can lower back down. What have I done with that heads-up display? Have I turned it completely off? Oh, there it is. There she goes. Can you see that? Whee! Yep. There it is. So, if you're into that, if you like your heads-up display, there she goes. You have it. This does not have night vision on it, which is a shame because that's one of my favorite things on Cadillacs. I just find it incredibly entertaining and useful. I think it's got a lot of potential. When it's ultimately realized, it's going to be a fantastic thing, and all cars are basically going to have it, I think. So, over to our center cluster. The screen is actually fairly small, but you got to remember this is a compact car, and I think the size that Cadillac has chosen is absolutely perfect for this application. It really is. And you got your map situation right there. Very clear, very easy to use. The interface is pretty much the standard interface you'll find any place, and just put in your keyword or your address and off you go. We have our music section, which is also known as the radio. And what else do we have? Then you have your phone access. So one of the nice things about this is you have a dial down here. Oops, sorry about that. You have a dial down here that is kind of like a iDrive or one of those things. Stop doing that, I'm telling you. Be quiet. So you can navigate around, and you turn and you hit. So that was that, and that was that, and that was that. But for some reason, when I mute it, it will only stay muted for so long before it decides to take over. But anyway, this is our on-off switch and our volume.
And truly like.
There you go. And then back here, we have our basic mode selector, which I was just playing with. Your driving mode, you turn off your traction control, your engine auto stop, and then your auto hold for your braking system. And when we go forward, once again, we have one of these mechanical appearing shifters, but it is in fact electronique. So you press and pull back, and now we're in drive. To go down to your manual selection mode, you just hit it back further one more, and you can shift with your paddle shifters, which have become so common now. That's why it's wonderful when you get in a full electric car and it's brake regeneration instead of actual shifting, to confuse you initially, but it works. It's fine. It's fine. And then you push the button there to put her back in park. Up here we have a very, very good charging system for your smartphone if you have the QI equipped system, and it works real well with your phone in a case, which I always appreciate. And then we have your climate control system, which again, probably the most standardized thing you'll find on cars these days is your climate control, because it's very, very simple, very straightforward. You just put it on automatic like that, and it'll adjust to the temperature you have selected in 2 zones, left and right, and beauty. And then of course you got your ventilation for your seats, and you have your heating for your seats. And then here is this. I had a real hard time finding this driving, and as you will see during the driving section, I did actually have problems with it. But right there is your lane keeping. And here we have your 360-degree camera situation. There's your left and right side cameras. And here we have your rear overhead. I don't know how some of this works. It's kind of amazing the way that it's a mixture of virtual and reality together. And there's the front from the top. And then we have back here, you have, that's completely behind us. And that's, excuse me, that's, which way am I facing? Now I'm confused. Wow, I've never seen this kind of ladder thing set up when you're going forward. Ooh, isn't that interesting? Learn something new every day. Oh, because there we go. Now I just turned it off, and now there it is. But if I go back here to the rear and hit it, nothing happens. But if I put it in reverse here, oops, sorry. Ugh, there we are. Aha! There you go. So, what else? That's pretty much it, except for the steering wheel, of course. And you do have, since this is the high performance V version, you have your V button. What happens when you hit the V button? Takes its time, considering it's supposed to be fast. But it takes you right into the V performance mode, where you have all kinds of stuff. You have a look. You have a horizontal run temperature gauge on the lower left. Then you have your right now our turbocharger is sucking apparently inches of mercury. So I guess that's as it goes through here. Boy, that could be potentially, most people are thinking about it in terms of boost, and that's not really what it's telling you right there. It's telling you the amount of, hell, what is it telling you? It's telling you the pressure inside the turbocharger, I guess, which would be lighter as it's spinning. Oh, well. Let's just say it's telling you your performance. Whee! Whee! Anyway. But then we take it out of the V mode, and we go back to our touring mode. And then you have your standard navigation for your screen over here, which you saw earlier. There we go. And over on the left side is your center of determinant cruising, or your cruise control. And this right here is your Super Cruise. And Super Cruise, of course, provided that you're on a roadway that has mapping with Google, so that all the different components that feed the algorithm are present. You'll get a nice green light right here. or it'll flash blue or do whatever, just to tell you what's going on. And it also, of course, in the graphics here will tell you whether or not you are in fact engaged in Super Cruise. And the most amazing part about it is it has the ability of changing lanes. In other words, you're driving along 60, 70 miles an hour, you come up on traffic, you want to continue to go 60 or 70 miles an hour. The car is able to look into the left-hand lane if you're on a 4-lane highway and determine if there's enough space, room, and everything else for you to change lanes to that other lane and proceed on to the speed you have selected and pass the car that you had on the right. So it's amazing to watch it work because it does everything automatically. It signals your intention to turn left into the left lane, and then it accelerates into the left lane. And it seems to work very, very well. But like I said, the critical aspect of that is it has to be able to read the mapping, and the mapping has to have been done. So there's a lot of roads in America that haven't been mapped yet, and General Motors, I guess in concert with Google, is hard at work trying to pretty much map any road that would be appropriate for using Super Cruise on. A lot of country roads and stuff like that, 2-laners, no, it wouldn't really be appropriate to use it. So they don't have to really bother the detailed mapping that would be required in order to feed the algorithms for Super Cruise. So you got all that. So tell me of your homeworld, Usul. Well, these seats are wonderful. As you can see, it's a real kind of a... do I have that thing with me? Do I have that thing? I don't have that thing with me. This particular leather surface is firm and durable feeling, and yet very, very comfortable with plentiful adjustments. And as I pointed out before, you got your heating and your cooling, and the headroom is very, very good, especially since this thing does not have a sunroof on it. And up here we have all kinds of things to play with. We got your light selections, we got help, SOS, OnStar, of course, present, and you have multiple times that you can talk to your car if you wish. Now, something else that's interesting is this guy right here is watching you. It is a camera that is watching, and it's actually part of Super Cruise, I'm told. Now, if that's the case, what it's doing with Super Cruise, I'm not entirely sure, unless it's making sure that you're staying in the driver's seat. As you may know, some of these autonomous driving systems, like with Tesla and other people have been like getting out of the driver's seat and going into the back seat and letting the car drive because they're idiots. And that's dangerous and stupid. But through the use of using the camera, which will also be used, no doubt, to make sure that you're not nodding off, the thing, driver alert system type of stuff, it can tell if you try to pull any shenanigans and get out of the seat while Super Cruise is on. If it'll do that, it'll deactivate Super Cruise. So there, you ain't doing it. No more Super Cruise for you if you do that stuff. And who can argue with that? I mean, that's a nanny state kind of thing. I hate that term, by the way. But it's necessary because people do stupid things. It's why we have laws like wearing seatbelts, because one of the stupidest things you can do, along with not wearing a motorcycle helmet, and I'm talking of 40 years experience riding motorcycles, not wearing a helmet is one of the dumbest things you can possibly do. So we have laws in some states that make sure you're going to wear a helmet if you are going to ride a motorcycle, and I believe all 50 states you have to wear a seatbelt when you're driving your car. Well, it's the same kind of thing. If people, they're trying to eliminate unnecessary accidents due to the mistakes of people, or due to the choices that people make. And I'm real dubious about the whole driver alert system, but I have anecdotal evidence that it has actually saved some lives, because people do work too many hours, have to travel too far on their commute, and they fall asleep. So the car is doing everything it can to make sure that does not happen, because a lot of people die every year falling asleep at the wheel and crashing. So it's all relative. I mean, it's like any other control. Just educate yourself on how it works, how the system works, and just deal with it. You know, that's all you got to do. Everything else will go swimmingly if you do that. Shall we check the back seat now? Yes. Here we go. Now, this is the part of the car I'm not wild about. Pretty compact, which just means this is a pretty tight opening right here. And I have the seat back fairly far, and the leg room is not plentiful. It's there, but barely. And you do have some decent headroom, but it feels just generally cramped. This is just definitely a two-person affair back here. And you have a huge drive shaft tunnel, so it's almost like a 2+2 instead of a bench seat situation where you could cram you could cram it. Well, you know how it is. You cram 3 people in, but you'd be uncomfortable. Window goes all the way down. Kudos. I do love that. Now let's check out our armrest here. I do believe I feel cramped. And the reason is because the rake of the seat back is also kind of on the vertical side, and so I can't see this being comfortable for a larger individual for a long trip. But for a person that doesn't carry people back here all the time, or if you're putting a car seat with a child in it, it'll be fine for that. But otherwise, not the roomiest compact I've been in by a stretch. It's pretty, not quite claustrophobic, but not conducive to, like I said, long trips for large people. And instead, you better shotgun when you're going someplace, because you don't want to be riding back here for long if you don't have to. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. After having a lot of fights with this car, I think I figured some stuff out. And we're going to go. Oh, well, there's one right there. Well, there's our manual. See, you can hear the additional audio enhancement that I've set up. I don't know how good that is, but it's there. You can hear it, and it sounds more like itself, I guess. Our engine auto stop feature works very well. That's always good. I like that when the engine's not running. It feels like an electric car at the light, or a hybrid. So off we go. All right, we're going to head on to a road that I know. I swear, I feel like I'm in sport mode, and I don't really want to be in snow and ice. No, my mode, yes. That's what we want to be in. My mode, not your mode. Not his mode, not her mode. I'm hot, you're hot, he's hot, she's hot. Buster Poindexter. What we're going to be able to do here with all these elaborate things is the car will basically, I have the navigation system set up, so it's taking me to a destination. And I'm going to wonder how that interfaces with the Super Cruise system. In the Super Cruise system, as I mentioned before, I have a previous ride-along video in this car that I did, and I'm going to probably have to throw most of it out because I was having so much trouble figuring everything out. Stand by, Super Cruise. There we go. And Super Cruise is unavailable, no road information. Well, give it a second, because I believe, unless just the other side is mapped when I came out here. We'll find out. Yes, yay, Super Cruise. I can't get the Superman theme from the original Superman movie with Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder and Gene Hackman, a cast of thousands, into my head, and I'm trying to find it because it was used in so many Superman movies, and it was great music. I want to see Jerry Goldsmith Anyway, sorry. So we're driving along, and a few things I want to show you now. Now, this green light, which is either annoying or not annoying, depending on your sensibilities, kind of like a heads-up display. You either like it or don't. In this particular circumstance, I can show you how I can take a left turn. See, auto lane change. Now it is now making this lane change by itself. And there we are. Well done. Well executed, auto lane change. It also is pretty much steering itself, doing some lane tracing here, and it seems to be doing it. There's a couple of places I've been where there's a pretty good turn that it's done a graduation of turn inputs that has been rather awkward. It would turn a little bit, turn a little bit, turn a little bit. Much, quite the opposite of what a human does normally when you have a nice smooth arc. So that's not perfect, but that's probably quite complex. Again, the way Super Cruise works is it actually uses Google Mapping in addition to all the sensors on the car and all the other things that normally are associated with adaptive cruise control and lane tracing. And it's also using mapping to help put the car exactly where it should be. And then everything else, it's almost like it's using the mapping aspect of it to help steer the car in general, where all the other systems can concentrate more like it's a computer. The algorithms can look more at what's around you and what kind of traffic you're in and that sort of thing. And for example, when I just had to do the auto lane change, it did it based on everything around it. And the beauty of this auto lane change system is if I were to run up on the back of a car right now, it will automatically just change the lane and move into it. And it looks through a variety of sensors on the car, it's looking to see if there's anything in that lane that it's changing you into to make sure there's no collision or anything like that. It seems to work pretty well. I'm fascinated by it because it works. It works well. Could it make mistakes? You bet. How does it work in the rain? How does it work if your car, all the car's surfaces are dirty? Does it obscure any of the sensors that need to be reading what's going on? So, another thing you should know, if, let's say you're in that circumstance, I'm coming up on a car and I need to change, it wants to change lanes because it wants to try to keep you at the speed that you set. In this case, I've set it to 67 miles per hour, which is 2 over the posted speed limit. And if it sees that and wants to change lanes, but for whatever reason you don't want it to, for example, you want to take an exit coming up on the right, and it doesn't know that because it's not in the you haven't set up the destination and navigation where it would know that. This is the big question I'm going to find out in just a minute and see if this car knows where I'm going, because I've given it a navigational cue. But anyway, if you need to cancel, this auto lane change feature is very simple. You just use your turn signal stalk and just hit it in the opposite direction of the one where it wants to go, and it just cancels it. It's no big deal, no drama, it's fine. As the wonderfully talented YouTube channel I Do Cars, as the host always says, it's fine. So it works well. I mean, and it's designed for what we have here right now, which is, you could probably see, it's getting dark. And I have no sunroof on this car, so the lighting is not as good. But when it has a bunch of lanes to choose from and it can see everything, see, it's steering around the corner here. It works much better. As a matter of fact, I think it'll cancel. It canceled earlier when I was driving, and I said an expletive. I don't know why I got so upset about it, but I did. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the mapping. It will take it off of Super Cruise if the mapping is no longer up to the standard that the system needs to be safe. That's what I'm thinking. See, I'm gonna have a drink here of my beverage. Isn't that nice? The car drives itself. It's kind of an eerie feeling sometimes. Kind of like, boy, you'd have to be really old to remember this series, but y'all know Dick Van Dyke, right? God bless. Oh, see, now it's turning. It's the Super Cruise disengaging. See? Red light, and it's now disengaged. But what is it doing now? Well, it's speeding up, and I need to take a right turn up here, and it needs to slow down a lot for me to do that. But it obviously doesn't know where I'm going anymore because Super Cruise is no longer engaged. So I have to stop it or brake it and slow it down my own self. But I can hit resume, and once we get going again, I'm gonna see what this crazy thing tries to do. Because what would be bad? We're going from a 4-lane, actually a 6-lane highway to a 2-lane highway. So I will hit the button for the Super Cruise, and it's just ignoring me. Hit your Super Cruise button again. Super Cruise. There we go. It's unavailable. No road information. Okay. It seems to me that earlier I did have some road information, so I can take it. So how's the rest of the driving of this car at speed? It's very nice. Hello, officer. How are you? Do you have Super Cruise? I don't think so. This thing is fairly quiet, except I've got the exhaust enhancement on maximum. It still sounds like a 4-cylinder, guys. Sorry. It just does, because that's what it is. It's turbocharged, but it's still a 4-cylinder. And it doesn't sound like a Yamaha 4-cylinder or something like that. With your 5-valve Genesis engine, it doesn't sound like that, but you can only do what you can do. So they try to enhance the sound of it, and it sounds a little better, I guess. To me, it just sounds exactly what it sounded like before, only more so. In a minute, from time to time here, I'm going to put this on the charger, and it's going to charge for us right through the case. Look at there. Look at that. Impressive. All this radiation has come up out of there and doing God knows what, but I don't have that many years left anyway, so what the hell. We look at this and we see that if I was to activate this now, is it going to tell me I have enough mappage? No, Super Cruise is disengaging. Apparently we were engaged for about 100 yards. But again, this is primarily dependent upon mapping. And right now it seems to see what this guy's doing. I'm going to try to go around him. Yeah, it read that really well. The adaptive cruise control read that really well. I'm impressed, because that's for the longest time is one of the big bugaboos with all kinds of adaptive cruise control, is that exact scenario where you're going around somebody on the what some people call the apron, some people call it the verge, some people call it the breakdown lane, but that space over there, should it exist, and the car is turning left in front of you, you can go around it that way, which is good and convenient for you. But a lot of the adaptive cruise controls would just slam on the brakes and practically stop the car, even though you were way over here and well out of harm's way as far as rear-ending that car. Erring on the side of caution, never a bad thing. Well, except for the fact that when any kind of adaptive cruise control system slams on the brakes for whatever reason, and they do it from time to time, you're in a situation where you're wondering what kind of adaptive cruise control the person behind you has, and whether or not it can see your sudden stop, or if they don't have it at all and they're sitting there diddling around on their phone, then emergency rooms ensue. But they're getting better all the time. The algorithms are getting better, and I think General Motors has really put a lot of time and effort into Super Cruise, and that's kind of their flagship technology at the moment. is, let's see if I can get her fire up here. Now I have a stretch of road coming up that I should be able to activate it again so you can hear it. But as far as quietness goes, it's not the quietest luxury vehicle of this size I've driven, but it's not bad. Most of the noise appears to be wind noise. There's not much at all in terms of road noise. I've got your Michelin Primacy tires on here, which are really nice tires, and they're all season, even though it says on the Monroney, I believe, that it had summer tires. But fortunately for me, as this is the middle of winter, it's good that they thoughtfully have put all-season tires on this car. I think they probably do that for most of the vehicles they sell in places of the country where it snows a lot, like the Northeast. They probably that's how they roll with that. Speaking of which, I don't think this car has night vision on it, which is one of my personal favorite things. I'll have to check on that. Maybe it does. If you haven't seen the previous night vision I did with my dogs, that's on with the which car is that with? XT6 maybe. It's a previous Cadillac that I actually have on this channel for you. Well, this is going to be an obnoxious slow thing, so I'll let you go get a beverage or do what you got to do, and I'll turn this off for now. Well, here is our Cadillac CT4, the compact Cadillac. Rear suspension, which you can see is a complex amalgam of links and a very shiny, look how new that is, isn't that beautiful? Shiny coil spring. You got, let's see, 1, 2, how many links do we have? Got quite a few. Very sophisticated. And you also have your drivetrain arrangement for your rear axle, which is a huge differential right there. Looks like to be of the aluminum variety. And you can see your drive shaft just snaking up through the exhaust and going up to the transmission where it gets all its power. But as you can see, this is an interesting setup. It looks like it's pretty lightweight in terms of construction. But I mean, when you have enough pieces like this, it's actually a pretty solid structure, except you just don't want to go, you don't want to go driving down your Moab or what's the name of the Rubicon Trail that Jeep is so fond of? No, you don't want to take this Cadillac CT4 there, no. But it's a good handling car, and you know what, it looks to me too that they probably without too much difficulty could install a four-wheel steering system, although yeah, never know. But there are a lot of links here and things. I feel like the way it's constructed, it could possibly be, down the road, perhaps, a four-wheel steering candidate. But you also have this little plastic thing here to protect your lower control arm. And you see a lot of that these days. That people are putting on all kinds of things to protect that lower control arm a little bit. And I find that kind of interesting because it's metal underneath there. I don't know why they really do that, but they like to do it, so they do it. But anyway, as you can see, it's fairly well tucked together down here. There's a fair amount of cladding, but not all that much. What you do have is a lot of aluminum heat shields, which here in the Rusty Belt, and after a few years, will start to fall off and make noise and rattle. Probably not, but you worry about that kind of thing because I see so much of this up here. It happens a lot, but it takes years before it gets to that stage. So, and it's not a big deal if it happens either, to be honest with you. So, there we go. Here we have our absolutely beauticious exhaust system. And this big flat thing that almost looks like a gas tank, that's a muffler. or a resonator or something. It's part of the exhaust system. And it's kind of amazing looking because it looks like what it isn't. We're so used to mufflers being round things that when you see a long flat one like this, that's interesting. But it does look really, you know, you got your manly exhaust there with you. CT4, 4 holes in the back. There you go. Well, okay then. Did you enjoy your super cruising? I certainly did. I have mixed feelings about this technology. Overall, I think it's pretty fantastic, but it has its problems as far as I think there's a distraction element involved with it, but you can decide that for yourself. You know how you drive. It'll add $8,100 to your price of your car, by the way, which is quite a bit, but you should know about that. But anyhow, it's a great car. It's fast, it's Cadillac, it's beautiful. And so are you, and thanks for watching.
Do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.